it's Erin and Simon with Assets and Arbitrage. Of course, we 7 minutes late. I should just make the notification 7:37, right? We got a interesting show today, but before we get to talking, we gotta do our reminders.
Stay stacking, stay stacking, stay stacking. Always stay stacking your Satoshis, stay stacking your ounces, and anything else that you may be involved in. Stay stacking. And, and that's something we had talked about last show about discipline as far as stacking. You have to be on top of it. Even if you didn't stack today per se, be on top of the news and the action. That's going on. It's a lot of stuff popping off in the last few days. So we want to go over some articles, and we're going to tie them together and show you some of the things, the tea leaves and stuff, the macro view. So yeah, we're gonna be stay stacking. So first thing I wanted to talk about, I know Aaron likes to wait for
Let's wait for
people
to get in the room.
Stack man. There you go. Boom, stack man. You got stack. You got to stack. I wish I had a little stack out here, man. I'm missing a couple coins over here. I gotta ask some questions.
Kids probably have it.
Oh man.
Let freedom ring. Thank you so much for joining. Hi, Bam. He said,
Let
peace to the
freedom
first
ring.
family of crypto.
Yes, sir. Bam.
Tell CC I said hello.
BK Crypto.
Boom. Guess who stepped in the room?
Cow.
Coming from the shower now.
So yeah, that's the family right there, man. That's the boots on the ground family, around the world family, and just family in the community. We see you as our community. I hope you see us as well as your community, but we see you as our community. So we're happy to see you Monday, Wednesday, and Friday.
Yeah, sometimes Saturdays.
Sometimes Saturday. So yeah, we're always happy to see you. Always happy for your input. Anything we could do, we're here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I was going to go into the charts real quick, and then it's been some movement. We'll start with Bitcoin. Been some movement in Bitcoin. Let's see if
Bitcoin to the dollar.
Yeah,
BK Crypto said we appreciate you.
Oh, thank you, good sir. Thank you. And we got to get back on one of those roundtable talks.
Definitely.
Yeah. So if you right here we got the.
Wait a second, baby. Just wait 1 second.
Oh, okay. We're not gonna go too deep with charts. I'm sticking with the line chart. I'm keeping it simple, y'all.
I just need to see what they're saying. Okay. All right. There you go, babe.
So we got a line chart here. Basic line chart. You can pull it up. This is the 1 day. You see it. We're a little bit over 71,000. That's great. Over 5 days, over the five past days, we are up 5.28%. So that's great. You see this chart, a very favorable looking chart. Number go up. And then the 1 month chart. Sometimes play around with that 1 month chart. There we go. Little jagged, but you see back here, we had touched 71 on a Monday, May 20th. So here we are touching it again on Wednesday, June 5th. So that's the 1 month chart, and we are up 12.46% over the month. The 6 month is incredible because we are up 61.13%. You can see that we came in right here. What we come in at? Came in the year in what, 44,000? Bang, we up here. So, low time preference. We look at that, 61%. Where do you really get 61% return on your investment in 6 months?
I need you to do that with my raise.
6 months. That's where I put it right there. Hold on, excuse me, y'all. I'm gonna clean this camera just in case I didn't do it before. Sorry about that. So you see that over 6 months, we're up over 60%. So that's actually 10% per month if you average it out. Although the chart does not say that. There was a big spike right here, but we all know about that. All right, then we're supposed to look at the silver chart.
I did.
So let me see if I can do it. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Sometimes I get the chart off at Max.
But it's not like the mode. That's not at max. Let me do it.
Okay. So we should be happy about our growth this week. That's why I stay stacking, dollar cost averaging. So we're dollar cost averaging up right now. Because this time next year we'll be. So now we'll bring up this chart, just a basic line chart.
I don't know why I didn't bring up charts like it usually does.
It does it on a mobile device, but here it's a little different.
Yeah, usually it just bring it right up.
Well, you don't have to worry about it. I didn't say too much. Here's the chart.
It's a chart, but it's not the consolidated chart. It's broken up. So this is gold, y'all.
Let me see if they got.
But let me just see what they're seeing first. Okay, they are seeing it. So this is gold.
No.
It's $2,367.50.
Hit you,
0.83. Go ahead.
Yeah, so this is the 1 day chart or 1 week chart. Week chart. So up over the week, you're
0.83%.
So almost a 1% over the week. All right. So this one has different. We'll do a
That's
month.
a month.
So month.
And this is just gold. So gold doesn't go up like silver goes up.
1.35%. Okay, that's gold. 3 months. Now we're talking about 12.7 over 3. So that's really, especially if you're talking about money that a large amount of capital that you are trying to protect, right? This isn't, I just put I put $200, $300 over here because you're not going to see a lot of movement with $100. If you have a large amount of capital, 6 figures, if you're doing it like that, this place from park it and you'll be sure to up it is up 14%, which doesn't seem like a lot, but it's 6 months up 14%. If you kept it in dollars, man, you already know. You already know.
5-year one, babe.
5-year. Oh boy, she won all the way out there.
So it's up 84% in 60 months.
Yeah. So
now that's gold. So
that's a place to park your large capital,
right?
And that's where you see it. Like we're gonna go into some of these articles, y'all.
I don't know what all means.
All time, I guess.
I think from when they started, it looks like they started in 1994. It's up 507%.
Oh yeah, since ATMEX started.
Yeah, since ATMEX.
Yeah. So ATMEX started charting it.
So to be up 500%, significant. So we're gonna do the same thing with silver for you guys. We started with the 1 week chart. Yeah. It is down 5%. 1 month chart, it's up 9%.
There you go.
Right. So again, we always talk about low time preference. People who just looked at the 1 week chart would panic.
Yeah.
But when you're looking at the 1 month chart, it's up almost 10%.
And let us 2 things. One, there's an inverse correlation between precious metals, especially silver, because it moves has a little bit more volatility than gold. As you see, the U.S. dollar has been up lately against other currencies, so you will see a dive a little bit.
And we're going to talk about that in a bit.
And number 2, you're going to see a fight at 30, 20, anywhere in the 30s. You're going to see a fight because that had been resistance for so long. And you have to see, has resistance been flipped to support? And that's what we're looking for now, to see if they can hold this 30 line. So that's the things to keep an eye on if you're checking the price on the daily. How's the 30 line hold? It had got up to 32, so we felt like we were in the safe zone. And then it got hammered all the way back down to 29, like it usually does on a Friday. Don't think we were supposed to keep you up to date on that. It would have been much
was to be.
So it's this month. So we'll keep an eye out on that for price movement. So anyway, you're still getting good. What are we at? 3 months year to date. Let's see, 25%, almost 26%. And that's in just in 6 months. So this is another place, like our good brother Ricardo Hamilton said, this is a great place to have as a high yield savings account. Mm-hmm. Right? If you had a piece of money you put in there on January 1st, you didn't touch it. You didn't have to even do nothing. We had to flip it, trade it, move it around. It's just up 26%. And then, you can take profits if you feel necessary and things like that. And we're gonna go over that one day. I gotta I'm not big on reaction videos, but sometimes there's some people out there who say some very interesting and important things that I think, we could do a cut in of and then have a good conversation about. Mm-hmm. So I was thinking about doing one of those with Ralph Powell. He was talking
that
about,
one that we watched the other night.
Yeah, that one, and he's talking about knowing when to take profits. That was very interesting.
So we'll definitely add that to the playlist.
So we'll try to pop those in and figuring out how to do that.
At 93, it's almost 94%.
Hey, man.
Right? So that's 60 months. And then let's do the all-time for APMEX, which started in 1994. It's up 478%. So with the gold.
Yeah. So, this is a place to park your money. Low time preference. Low time preference. So, so everything's looking good. Bitcoin is good. Toast is good. Everything's looking good. Come back.
Sustainable. We're back. We're sorry. It's Mexican internet.
Yeah. Yes, it is. I'm sorry. I don't know because I had the screen off. I don't know where I cut off at on that one.
So we're hoping that you caught that gold all time since 1994 for APMEX was up 507%. Silver is up 478%, right, since 1994. So we were talking about even in the last 6 months, there was, I have to go back, y'all. I forgot
you
that.
You have to share it, though. You just look at it yourself.
No, that way they can see it because I don't know if they were able to see it.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right, so with silver, just in case you guys missed it, the 1 month it's up 9.5%. 3 months it's up almost 30%. Year to date, which really is just 6 months because we're in June, it's up 25%. So for those of you who have been stacking your ounces in silver, you can see that it's a great place, Simon said, to use as a high yield checking account.
Savings account.
I'm sorry. High yield savings account. Let Freedom said the audio is choppy.
Okay.
Is it still choppy? Let Freedom ring. Let me know. Because I can't even, it takes so long to reboot.
Yeah, no need to reboot.
Somebody in the chat let me know if we're still real choppy.
But while we do that,
I don't even know if because somebody would have. It's good now. Okay, thank you. Yeah. Thank you so much. All right.
And so what we're showing you is that your investments are doing work for you. Somebody told me this, and it seems silly. And you guys, it might be silly to you. I thought it was, funny, but when I thought about it, I said, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. They say, like, if you have money that you're putting to work, you look at every dollar, every little dollar you have, $1 bill, you look at that as like an employee. And you sending that employee out, right, to do some work for you, and you expect something back, right? Whether it's 5%, 500%, but something brought back from that employee, because that's how they treat us. They send us out to do work. and expect money back for the work that we do. So your small employees are doing great work. If you are invested in precious metals, gold, silver, mostly.
I wouldn't call them small employees. You mean because of the size of the round?
I'm talking about $1 bill.
Oh, gotcha,
Yeah,
gotcha.
it's $1 bill, small employee. $100 bill, maybe bigger and larger employee.
Gotcha.
But yeah, we're doing good in that sector. So let's jump into it. Are you guys ready? We got people in the room.
Got 25 people in the room. We're gonna get started.
So let's start with that Yahoo Finance one first, which is kind of a funny one, but I don't know if this earlier this week. Apparently, Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway stock dropped over 99%, over 99%, and apparently it was a glitch on the New York Stock Exchange. And they tried to halt trading as the stock kept dropping and dropping and dropping, because as it dropped, people were buying it at cheaper and cheaper prices. And it got all the way down to what it usually trades around $620,000 a trade, a share. It got all the way down close to the high 600s.
I don't know. We have to be
high 600s, And so, and that was interesting. And the New York Stock Exchange hasn't figured out what actually went wrong.
You think somebody hacked it, maybe?
They say
and did it on purpose?
No. Well, in this article, they say it was the CTA who had problems with their
servers and
with
stuff.
their servers. Mm-hmm. But what was interesting is the New York Stock Exchange has said they will already cancel all the orders of the people who got to buy the stock cheaper.
Yep, they'll have their deals canceled by the New York Stock Exchange, which to me isn't right, because when stuff like that happens to the everyday Joe, you just got to take it on the chin.
Yep, you just got to take a loss. When Coinbase, when you can't make a trade on Coinbase when stuff is happening real fast, and I know we've all been there, we just got to take it. Like, oh, hold, I'm trying to trade, and then it just says it's down. Mm-hmm. We've seen that. I've seen it happen on Robinhood. We've seen it happen on different places. We had to take it on the chin.
Right.
I think they wrote anything under 603,000 was a canceled trade.
They're going to cancel it.
So why that number? Why does he get that much? You take a little loss, but anything under that.
Why is he getting that carte blanche privilege?
Right.
So it says investors who purchased shares in Warren Buffett's Berkshire Hathaway yesterday at a discount will see the following a technical issue on the stock exchange. For those with us today, I did make it a point to put the articles in the drop down for you guys to have access to, especially if you're doing the replay. On June 3rd, a data glitch led to the global conglomerate stock price to fall $185 a share, having previously closed at over 600 points. The drop meant more than a 99% discount on Warren Buffett-led company.
Let me stop my beautiful wife right there. You can go back up.
Okay.
So let's talk about this real quick before we move on. This has Cantillionaire written all over it, right? Warren Buffett is a Cantillionaire. Mm-hmm. We know that. And we talked about last show who Cantillionaires are. Look what this is.
And for those of you who weren't on the last show, because I see a few names who weren't in the chat at least, Cantillionaires are those who sit closest to the money printer. Yep. So what happens is when the money is first issued, they get to front run the everyday Joe bag of donuts and go ahead and invest and do whatever they need to do with the money when the money has the most purchasing power, typically at 100%.
So this is $620,000 per share.
Per share.
So that's all Cantillionaires up there, moving that around. Cantillionaires trading that, buying
when they
that,
get the money off the printer and it's at the 100% purchasing power,
it's way up
they're
there.
able to purchase stocks like this.
So not only was Warren Buffett losing money, but it was a whole bunch of Cantillionaires who are tied into Warren Buffett losing money, right?
Which is why the New York Stock Exchange is now going to step in and intervene on their behalf.
On the behalf of all the Cantillionaires, including Warren Buffett, the head Cantillionaire. and that's why they picked 603,000. So you a little bit of loss, but they can't just let it go down, down, down. So this is cotillionnary work up here.
This means the trader who snapped up the $925 worth of the
Right.
stock at the rock bottom price, would now see their investment worth over $3 million
Yeah,
today.
that let us just get a leg up.
And they're not gonna let people get a leg up like that.
No, because when it goes the other way on us, we just
Yeah.
down. We just down. You see that book? I ain't even gonna go into that. You know.
This.
Mm.
Right. And really, at the end of the day, this is their chart because look at those prices.
Mm-hmm.
Your everyday Joe bag of donuts can't afford to get in on something like this. And look how everything is up, 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 up in a hyperinflationary economy. This is nuts.
It's ridiculous.
When everything else is down, down, down. While it hasn't been confirmed in the technical era, which lasted for around an hour and a half, the New York Stock Exchange has swiftly undone their trades. Notice the wording. I tell you guys every single show, I want you to see the wording that they use. It's very strategic, it's very methodical. Swiftly undone, right? Because there's a lot of ways they could have described that, but undone their trades, right? In an update posted at 9 p.m. last night, the New York Stock Exchange said it would bust all the erroneous trades of Berkshire Hathaway stock at or below 603 plus thousand.
Right.
The issue, the exchange added, is related to a problem at the Consolidated Tape Association, which provides real-time information regarding quotes and trades on the exchange. CTA oversees part of the securities and consolidates all protected bid-ask quotes and trades into a single data stream. The CTA said it experienced problems with price banding, which may have been related to a new software release. Somebody getting fired. As a result, the CTA has reverted to the previous version of the software, so they have to roll it back. The CTA did not immediately respond to Fortune's request for a comment. They'll definitely have to do what we call a root cause analysis. Somebody or somebody's, their jobs are in jeopardy today. During the blip, the New York Stock Exchange placed halts on certain trades and will seek to determine which are erroneous and thus eligible to be canceled. The technical issue has now been resolved, it added, with all tickers trading as normal. Traders who didn't hop on a discounted Berkshire Hathaway stock but did buy heavily discounted shares in other brands will also be subject to having their trade struck off. Look at the wording.
Mm-hmm. But whose trades did they go and make sure they took care of first?
Berkshire Hathaway.
A Class A contillionaire class.
Mm-hmm.
And then now they're going to go back and see who else stuff.
Like after the fact, right? They didn't swiftly undone those.
No, not at all. It didn't at
So
all.
other tickers were impacted included the American restaurant chain Chipotle, so that's CMG, mining company Barak Gold Corporation, under Gold, GOLD, and the meme stock darling GameStop. I didn't get a chance to see their little tweets and stuff. For Berkshire Hathaway, the good news is that its Class B stock, BRKB, was not impacted by the ticker problem, and its Class A stock closed at more than 631,000 a share. Notice we started at 603.
Right. So this is
So it made $28,000.
No, 603 is where they were going to cut it off.
Oh, okay. I understand what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Closed. Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah,
they didn't immediately respond to Fortune's request for a comment, nor I don't think they would.
No, they can keep it quiet on that one.
The Berkshire Hathaway mega bargain is one of many hiccups experienced by various international stock exchanges and is unlikely to be the last. Just last week, live data from the S&P 500 and the Dow Jones Industrial Average, please don't cut that hair. And the Dow Jones Industrial Average disappeared from trader screens for around an hour. The Financial Times have reported. The system is then returned to normal, but the cause of the outage is being investigated. While the New York Stock Exchange issue has been fixed with limited fallout, the same couldn't be said for an LSC incident that cost Wall Street giant Citi millions of dollars. Now, this is a story.
Mm.
In May 2022, a London trader bypassed hundreds of warning notifications to create a basket worth $444 billion. While $255 billion was blocked from trading by Citi's international management system, a basket worth $189 billion was still released to the global markets. A total of $1.4 billion in equities were sold across various European exchanges before the trader canceled the order. Wow. Citi was fined near $70 million by the UK Financial Conduct Authority for the oversight and related matters. Now, was that an accident?
Exactly.
That is the question, right? Did we flub that by accident? Even though, did you read the wording, guys? It said, a London trader bypassed hundreds of warning notifications in order to create the basket worth $444 billion. 444 also being a very strategic number. We won't get into something Cousin Rue and I will probably for you
Rue.
in
Shout
the
out to Big
future.
Rue.
Cousin Rue has his show today, so he probably won't be on tonight.
Oh, okay.
But hundreds of warning notifications, and yet still managed to create the basket that they got fined.
Yeah. I mean,
$70 million for. So it sounds very Chase-like, considering it's the Citigroup, right? That's Chase's cousin.
If I'm following you correctly and I do the math right, they still came out on top, right?
Way on top. Like top of the world, Brandy.
Yeah, so if I'm doing the math,
2000 on top.
Right. We just gotta play our little position down here.
Cousin T. Willine,
What's
thanks
up,
for
brother?
joining. He said he just ordered 3 1-ounce coins from AtNext while he was listening to us.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Bitcoin chart gonna look like that soon. The birth I have. Yep, surely is. But that's the thing, right? That's one of the reasons why they don't like Bitcoin, because the idea that your everyday man and woman can have access to a commodity the way they have access to it, right? They don't like the idea that that 1% has the ability to now be a bigger number. They want to remain the 1%, and they want us to remain the 99% and broke. They want our charts to look like what the dollar chart look like, and their charts look like their halfway chart.
Yes, indeed. And also on a bigger scale, and this is something we haven't really talked about much, but I guess we could, is they're trying to get rid of the middle class. So just collapse it. Bang. Where is no middle class? It's just
just rich and broke.
Right. And so a lot of people, and people who look like us, our people, are kind of stuck and toiling in the middle class, whether it's lower middle class all the way up to upper middle class. But this is where you are, and you're in a group that they're trying to destroy and get rid of.
Now, here's the thing, right, that I was just thinking about. And I don't want to front run the latter part of the show, but I find it interesting that over the evolution of the United States and the prosperity that came along with it, you want to collapse the middle class right around the time of the population decline.
Yes, we're gonna go.
Right? Now, that's what I'm saying. I'm not going to front run it, but it's interesting, right? And we don't believe in coincidences. That at this point in time is when you guys are like, yeah, we're going to collapse this shit cold. And we'll talk more about that.
And really what they're doing is the way they debase the dollar is collapsing the middle class, in the sense that you and your raises and your promotions and things like that aren't keeping up with the rate of inflation. So that's why I said people get off this $100,000 mark, because when you make $100,000, you won't be living like you think you will be living making $100,000. In these certain cities,
especially in the wrong environments, in the wrong geographical areas.
So they'll have you chasing something like that, and you're like, oh, boom, I make $100,000, I made it, and you're just still living regular, like middle class.
It feel like 20,000.
And then and if you want to do the middle class things of the past, like sending your children to private school, these things like that.
Uniform, tuition, even sports,
Yeah,
right?
sports
For
is
sports
expensive.
parents, sports is expensive as hell.
Yeah,
I'm glad that the kids play basketball and not American football because of how expensive all of the equipment is.
mm-hmm.
Right? Versus what's another expensive sport? Lacrosse is probably expensive as
Lacrosse and
hell
hockey is real expensive.
with all the equipment.
Baseball is very
Baseball, yep.
expensive.
Baseball bat like $300.
Oh, yeah, probably about $450 now.
Oh my
The
lord!
glove is off the chain.
Yes, and then the oil and stuff
the
that go
spikes,
with it. Mm-hmm.
Your spikes and everything. And baseball is a very expensive sport, and
And parents who have multiple children involved at high level sports, it's even more expensive. Tournaments cost money, the refs, right? All of these different additional costs. If you're in AAU,
out of town stuff like she's talking about AAU,
traveling.
Room and board, this stuff costs a lot. So if you want to be in middle class, you have to be able to do those type of things. Send your child to a reasonable prom, not that proms that she was talking about last show.
That's the proms that they're going to.
I'm talking about a reasonable prom.
There's no reasonable prom.
When you pull up to the house, you take some pictures.
There's no reasonable prom.
Maybe you get them a limo. Maybe
they jumping out of my box.
Yeah, so that's unreasonable.
That's unreasonable. Absolutely unreasonable. And don't have a Satoshi between them.
No, but I'm talking about people who are trying to be in the middle class. And if you want to send them to college,
they taking out their own loans at this point.
Yeah, because
parents can't afford to take on that.
College debt. But then when you send them to college, you're really setting them up for debt to start their life with 6-figure debt. And
the problem is really that
it's crushing the middle class.
The debt is so bad, right? That when you trying to send, like, let's say Sean, right? We're still paying off our college loans and then trying to take on another loan for Sean. Not that we're doing that. No, but that's what the problem is in today's household. Before, when people were sending their kids to college, their stuff had long been paid off. They weren't still fooling around with college loan debt. Debts were up and coming. But now that is today's phenomena, is that the parents still paying 6-7 figure loan while the child is like, hey, can you take this college loan out for me?
And so you got to understand, somehow you have to, there's so many scholarships out there, and I don't want to get off topic, but so many scholarships you could apply for, but you have to actually get out there and apply for them.
You got to do the work.
Do the work. You got to do the work. And if you are outright a top student, you'll get an academic scholarship. And if you are a great athlete, you'll get an athletic scholarship. So that's two things you can look forward to. We have great athletes and stuff. So,
and scholars, right? So, they're gentlemen, they're scholars, they're athletes. Yeah. We're doing big things here. But in 2024, I do want to add that we have a lot more options in the education sector than just paying high tuition in order to go to college. There's so many different ways to educate yourself, self-educate, economical ways of getting degrees. We use edx.org. They have many degrees, many certifications. A lot of employers do have, again, we're talking about employer benefits, and some of those benefits come with tuition reimbursement. So that may be something that helps you towards your, degree desires, your degree path. Yeah, that's the way I was looking for it.
Certain degrees, though, you got to go through.
You got to do the traditional way, right? You can't go to law school on APMEX.
Yeah.
You can't be a neurosurgeon on APMEX. But I'm just saying, in not APMEX, I meant to say edx.org. But at the same time, I don't know if iTunes University is still live. I haven't looked at it in a long time.
That's tough. I know. YouTube University is really good because it comes through MIT.
Oh, the real YouTube University, not the one that we just say casually.
Oh, no, YouTube University.
That's why I laughed when you said that.
It comes through MIT, so it's solid. Like I said, I've taken a few courses on there: microeconomics, macroeconomics, blockchain technology.
You took Gary Gensler's course.
Yeah, Gary Gensler. It was a really good course too.
It's dry though. It's dry as hell.
Boring. And I took another course from a young Asian man.
I can't remember his name though.
But he was knocking it down. He was on the board.
I can't remember.
And so because one of the things is when you get into these courses, I'm not trying to go off course too much.
Way off course, y'all.
But when you go into these courses,
my little mentoring sessions sound like.
See, when you have these apps and things, they actually convert everything for you, and here it's like set up to where you have to know the formula and you know how to figure it out by handwriting it, not by just writing it in.
Okay.
Like for example, we had learned what was that one called that I used to like to use? Not the Golden Cross. See, because it's been a while since I've been over there in Chardon. Sorry, guys. I'm sorry. I'm trying to remember.
It's my life, y'all. Why you remember that? We're gonna move on to the next article. Don't worry about it. Right?
What I'm just saying.
Moving along.
But what I'm just saying is they have you actually calculate these things out without the help of an app or anything like that. And it really just builds those neural pathways in so you could really remember them, although my neural pathways have gotten rusty. So, but maybe I need to go back over there and kind of moving all your investments, silver, gold, and Bitcoin, makes things a lot easier, but it also makes you kind of a lazy investor. And, as far as all the things, the VWAP and all this stuff that you used to know, and the MACD crossover and all that.
When you say VWAP,
yeah,
not like Cardi B's VWAP. It's a different type of VWAP.
Yeah.
He didn't get the joke, y'all. He got it now. So pause.
Yeah.
But you do know the WAP song, don't you?
No.
With her and Megan Thee Stallion?
No.
Oh, it's the acronym. It's a family show, so I ain't gonna tell y'all what the acronym is. All right, Cousin Jake's in the room. Next article. So the show's called a US dollar plot twist, y'all.
Let me see who else is in here.
Cousin T. Will Line Bam. I read all of these.
I've been because sometimes I want to get involved with the people. But you don't be listening
to me when I tell you who's here. I talk to all these people.
Okay.
Nerd Up Inc. I don't know if I said hello to you though, so thank you so much for joining. Let Freedom Ring, BK Crypto, Bam. Cousin T, Cousin Jake. There's 34 people in the room at the 37-minute mark, so
right. That's good. We're doing good.
Yeah, about a person per minute.
That's good, man. A lot of information being shared. I'm sorry, I'm getting old. I can't remember this stuff like I used
to. So the title of the show was the US dollar plot twist.
Yeah, let's get into it.
So while I was working today, hubby was like, I gotta read something to you. And we're about to share the screen because this was like, that's interesting as hell.
So remember, we're gonna put some context on this. You do remember all the times that I've come in here and talked about the BRICS nations, and basically, really Russia and China, okay, putting pressure on the U.S. by trying to usurp the U.S. dollar for global settlements, trying to use either or some other way to settle it besides the U.S. dollar. And so they've been trying to get people in the BRICS nations so that they can have these trade groups where they don't have to use the U.S. dollar. And, that is what I was saying was an act of war as we were attacking the dollar. Right. And we were all discussing it. And I think multiple content cousins also bring up the BRICS dilemma, from time to time. So here we have BRICS. 73 central banks are buying U.S. dollars and ditching the Chinese yuan. And then you see how they folded the two currencies together to make one weird face. So it says central banks of leading countries are hoarding the U.S. dollar and gold and not the Chinese yuan. Reserve bank managers are accumulating the U.S. dollar for its high yields as Chinese yuan interests have declined. Interesting as hell. The development bolsters the U.S. dollar at a time when BRICS is looking to uproot it as the world's reserve currency. Let's stop right there.
All right, babe.
Go back. So there's a very, like she says, it's written in
the way the wording is, the words that precision of language.
So very specific word in there is hoarding.
Boy, I said
Specific
it.
word, hoarding. So now, what does that mean? Come back to the trifling dilemma. Now they're hoarding the dollars, so you don't have access to them.
Mm-hmm.
So in your small community, if you had a bank run on a small local bank, they're not
Mm-hmm.
gonna be able to give everybody the money. Now you rode up there and say, "Hey man, I want my $50,000." They're gonna tell you come back in what, 6 weeks?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I mean. That's what the articles tell you. And so now they're hoarding actual money. And so,
And gold.
oh, gold, yeah,
But the idea that they're hoarding the dollars and the gold means something's up, because I thought we were dumping the dollar. Remember that term? And every single article talked about we're dumping the dollar. These countries are dumping the dollar. They're refusing to use it as payment settlements. But 73 central banks know something that nobody else seems to know.
And so, if these are 73 central banks, it's going to be a bank per nation state.
Sounds
So
like
we
it.
understand it. So we understand that. So two, it's going to be banks. I'm sorry to say that matter.
Mm-hmm.
So if you started thinking about like, well, what banks are doing this? What central banks are doing this?
Right.
So you could probably just wrap up the whole EU, European Union. So everybody over there is doing it. So you could probably say a good part of
I'm sure if we
Asia,
did a little bit of internet detecting, we could figure out who the 73 countries are.
Yeah, it's a good part of Asia, good part of
Maybe
Europe,
the UAE.
and who else? I mean, because they're not really, LATAM is doing something else
Different.
in Africa.
Mm-hmm. What about the Middle East?
We could get the Middle East is Asia, though.
Oh, it's considered Asia. Gotcha.
Yeah, so all that, it's going to be ugly. And we got a story about Africa, too.
But also, just how it says accumulating the US dollar for its high yields. That's interesting, because I thought the dollar was crap and wasn't worth much anymore, right? So,
and remember, this is people, large amounts of money, who are trying to protect it, and high yield, which might be what, 1.83%. I think I read.
we didn't get there yet, baby.
Okay,
if you read that,
that's a high yield for large capital, right? Large capital can't really play around with volatility. So if the dollar is yielding more than the yuan, then you'll see a switch. That's their jobs. Hedge funds managers, people like that.
That's what they get paid to do.
Hey, boom, we got to move.
So it says BRICS was using the Chinese yuan ahead of the US dollar for trade among other member nations and other developing countries. Now that the central banks of various countries are distancing themselves from the yuan, which I thought we were distancing ourselves from the dollar, it's the yuan, the US dollar is gaining prominence. How interesting. The high yielding US dollar is the only currency that outperforms all other local currencies in the market. So this is a complete 180 from all of the news we've been getting. I feel like somebody kind of leaked a secret to us. It says the central banks say yes to the US dollar and say no to the Chinese yuan.
So China's getting beat back down.
Right? Even though it was China's idea, like, let's get rid of the dollar. We're going to use the yuan for trade. And that's what it sounds like, right? It sounds like they knew about this, and then they came up with a campaign in order to dump the dollar, to use the yuan, to bolster the yuan, which was significantly declining.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like to me, right? And this is mere speculation, you guys. Like, we're doing the same internet detectives that y'all are doing. So it says recent data published by the Official Monetary and Financial Institutions Forum sheds light that BRICS' idea of de-dollarization is not working. How interesting. Central banks of many countries are hoarding the US dollar and gold more than the Chinese yuan. So the survey shows that a net 18% of reserve managers intend to increase their US dollar purchases. That gives a bit of hope to those of us who work for the US dollar yet.
Mm-hmm.
73 central bank reserve managers said that they plan to increase buying the US dollars in the next 20 to 24 months. Therefore, the US dollar will see more accumulation in the coming years and not the Chinese yuan. The move derails the BRICS idea of de-dollarization and shows the strength of the US dollar on a global scale. Again, the link to this article is available for you in the drop down.
Very important information right here.
Yes. Reserve managers cited, right? So that means there's solidified sources that are documented. So they cited the US dollar's role in global trade and expected higher returns as the sole reason. The demand for the US dollar among reserve managers is rising, and the same is stalling for the Chinese yuan. I also want to know if all that BRICS news was propaganda from China and they were paying the media to roll it out.
Could be propaganda. That's a good take on it.
This is the first year we've seen any meaningful share of reserve managers looking to downscale their am I saying this right? Renminbi holdings?
Yeah, renminbi holdings.
Thank you, baby.
You are.
Okay.
Yeah,
Nikhil Sangani, the managing director of OMFIF Economic and Monetary Policy Institute. Lots of managers flag the market transparency and geopolitics as some hurdles. And at least in the near term, quite a few mention that it's simply a returns point. Policy rates are low in China, and you can earn higher yields in the US or European government bonds now. And this information was given to Reuters.
So, like I said, of those 73 nations, you just mentioned European bonds. Europe's got a lot to do with this.
Absolutely.
So Europe's got a lot to do with this.
It's like watching a soap opera.
And we just have to stay on top of this. It's kind of moving back and forth.
But y'all know we're going to bring y'all the news.
Yeah. It's a slow movement.
I see we have a new cousin in the chat. I love meeting new cousins. Morel Hughes said it's a bank run happening now. Thank you so much for joining us, Morel. Yeah. Will Howdy, hey cousin. And Les Square, hey cousin from New Jersey.
Oh, yeah.
New Jersey in the house.
Jersey in the house.
Cousins, what are y'all about this? After all of those months with all of the content cousins and other content creators talking about how disastrous it's going to be when the US dollar is going to be dumped and not used for payment settlements, and all of that money was going to come back to US shores worth nothing. And now we're hearing like, yeah, nah. We're going to buy as many dollars as we can possibly get our hands on because it has higher yields. Cousin T said, did we forget that China has a CBDC? They don't care about that old currency. I heard nothing about Russia in the article, and it don't sound right. We're going to watch, right? T. Willine said he think it's a trick bag.
Could be. It always can be. They're feeding us the information they want us to know. So we got to try to,
now, right,
navigate through it.
Let's travel down Cousin T. Willine's idea, right? Because we're scientists and we have to kind of acknowledge all hypotheses on the table.
What's his idea?
He's saying it's a trick bag. Okay. So I'm saying, what if it is
a trick bag in which way?
That the dollar isn't doing higher yields. That the article isn't true.
Isn't true? Oh,
like they're misdirecting us with the article. Okay. And let's just say they are, right? We're going to travel down that road, Cousin T. What if the idea is we put an article out there like that telling you that 73 nations are hoarding the dollar in order to prop the dollar up? Mm-hmm. Because what you've done now is, as this media information, this propaganda goes out, it begins to renew trust in the dollar. And that's really what backs the dollar, trust.
That's it, trust, and men with guns, as they say.
Right? But even aside from the weaponization of it, right, just the article having that information, utilizing those words, cited, right? They're citing why they're doing it and where they got the information from and how it's so important on a global scale. It does reinstill trust on a global level back into the world's reserve currency. It does,
but where they're really doing the work at and what's really happening is it's still kind of like one side or the other. When you got BRICS putting together their nations against
Right.
what I would say is the Western world, European world,
Mm-hmm.
putting together their nations
Right.
to fight over who has the world reserve currency and
Mm-hmm.
what will debts be settled in. Because
Mm-hmm.
that's what it gets down to. What are debts being settled in? Do I have to go buy dollars, or can I just settle in my yuan?
Well, here's my other concern or question I would say, right?
Mm-hmm.
If that article or the idea that there are 73, let's call them, we'll stick with the central bank's term, right? I won't use any other term. 73 central banks hoarding the dollar, that gives it a significant value now,
Mm-hmm.
right? They're saying it has higher yields, its prominence is better, and so on and so forth. With the money supply being so far out of whack, we can't we don't have any documentation or way of reporting the truth of it because we can't measure the dollars, right? It's not like Bitcoin, which is on the blockchain and we can see the movement of it, and if somebody makes a statement you can, oh yeah, that's true, right? Because we saw that movement. We don't know if they're really hoarding it or not because the money supply is just
Yeah,
so
you have to really do a deep dive on that
expansive to
to
see if
really,
they're telling the
you
truth.
have to really get into it.
If you guys are hoarding the money, how much did you hoard? What do you have? How much does each central bank out of the 73, what is each of you hoarding? What does
And,
that number look like?
and also with it being business, there has to be reporting.
Does there? Because I think we did a Chase article about some non-reporting.
Yeah, I mean, there may be non-reporting, but also because they're going to do it quarterly.
Are they?
Yeah, so it moves slow. So all this might happen, and then you get an end of the third quarter report.
Okay.
3 months later, like, oh wow.
Mm-hmm.
So this is what's been happening for the last 3 months. So you're behind 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's always keep your ear to the street. If you are a dollar investor or something like that, this affects you a lot. If you are a U.S. citizen, it actually helps you. Gives your dollar more strength.
It adds a bit of purchasing power to
So it
the
actually
dollar.
helps the U.S. citizen, but it's a mess. It's a mess out there.
All right, the cousins are chatting with us. Morel Hughes also thinks it's a trick. Let freedom ring. Trying to prop up the dollar. Just keep buying Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Will Hobdy. The dollar has been our biggest export since 1971. The average person is starting to realize that the U.S. dollar is losing its grip and influence over other countries. Again, that's why we're saying this propaganda, true or untrue, is still going to add value to the dollar, right? Just the idea, and especially since right now people can't pinpoint the accuracy of the information or even quantify the information.
Yeah,
we don't know what's being hoarded, how much is being hoarded, when did you start hoarding it? We don't have that information. So in a way, and like we said, the dollar, which used to be tethered to gold, is now tethered to the idea of trust. It does begin to instill trust in those who come across this article who are getting this information. Mm-hmm. So it props it up a little bit. So true or untrue, it's still going to prop the dollar up. Mm-hmm. True or untrue. T. Willine said, I didn't graduate from high school, but I know that we printing $1 trillion every 90 days. We overprinting. I can't see how all my goods are up, but the dollar is getting stronger. Agreed. Did the peso to dollar ratio go up? Let's see. I didn't go to the market today, y'all.
It did. It went up significantly.
It's 1750.
It went up significantly.
It was 1776 when we paid the rent on the first.
Yeah, so you can see the movement because.
Whereas last month, I think it was like 1620 when we paid.
They say that the peso weakens or strengthens against the dollar. Mm-hmm. So they use the dollar as the benchmark, mm-hmm. and then the peso weakens, which means we get more bang for our buck with the dollar,
or it strengthens,
and then it strengthens,
and we lose that discount.
Yeah, we lose that discount. So yeah, it has weakened against the dollar, which is good for us over here for now.
Les Square, you said the old money is in the dollar. Can you clarify your comment for us, just so I have an idea on what you really mean? It's,
Old money in a dollar?
he said the old money is in the dollar. I'm not sure what that means. So I'm just gonna have him clarify instead of
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
speculate what he means. But thanks for asking about Mexico, because you know we got an article for y'all.
Yeah.
What is this, baby? Okay. I be trying to get rid of all of these pop-ups and stuff before I share the screen with y'all. It's like horrible with all of the. All right, so Mexican billionaire Ricardo Salinas Pliego urges followers to buy Bitcoin as the Nigerian naira falls under a Satoshi. I know that's confusing for you guys because you want to know, what does the Mexican billionaire have to do with the naira?
Well, he's a forex trader on the highest level.
But we do have to kind of make that known.
Yeah,
like, well,
yeah.
what does A have to do with? We get what you're saying, but why are you concerned?
Remember that the Nigerian naira falls under a Satoshi.
So it's worth less than what the one Satoshi is worth.
Yeah, so that's what they're dealing with over there.
Can I figure out here what a Satoshi is worth?
You can, but I was just going with the story. That's just
okay.
Something.
You guys can look that up on your own, what one Satoshi is worth. So Ricardo Salinas Pliego, I just want to make sure they can see it, is one of the wealthiest billionaires in Mexico, and has urged his followers to purchase Bitcoin as a hedge against the devaluation of fiat currencies. Salinas recommended purchasing Bitcoin in response to a social media post reporting on the fall of the value of the Nigerian naira under a Satoshi. The top 1% is starting to realize the opportunities that Bitcoin as a financial asset can bring as a hedge for fiat currency devaluation. Ricardo Salinas Pliego, a Mexican entrepreneur with a fortune worth over $14 billion, not pesos, but dollars, and the owner of Salinas Group, has recommended his followers on Twitter to purchase Bitcoin and take advantage of its constant appreciation and value. Commenting on a social media post describing how the value of the Nigerian naira fell under a Satoshi, Pliego stated, the Nigerian official currency has been facing a very rough period, becoming the worst performing currency against the US dollar in May. So again, everybody in the world seems to benchmark whatever they got going on against the US dollar.
Being it the US dollar being the
World Reserve currency. But we in our space need to make it a point. Cousin Jake does that so well. Is we benchmark everything against Bitcoin because that's the actual thing of value. When we're talking about it like this, we still have to see, and this is that trust aspect again, when we were talking about propping up the dollar, the world sees the dollar as a currency of value.
They do. They do, and that's
why they benchmark everything against it.
Oh yeah, you have to, because you know when you're dealing across when you're globally, right? You gotta have
benchmark, right? You gotta have that constant against your variables.
Yeah. So that's the constant. One thing else I want to say, it's okay. Shout out to billionaire Pliegas, Salinas Pliegas.
Sí, estamos aquí. Like we here.
And somebody like that with that kind of
come on our show,
and that kind of with his what do you call them?
Influencers.
He's an influencer, and so he can tell his people to go buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, he has that influence, socioeconomically, financially, culturally.
Yeah.
Right? It's not like Claudia Scheinbaum telling them that, where they're like, right, it's good advice, but we don't want to hear it from you. But he also has that cultural influence.
He has a cultural influence which can spread across the country of Mexico.
Right.
So that's great that he did that.
And he could be not that like but President Bukele in a sense for his people.
Right.
Pliegas can champion. And it's funny that you bring that up, because in a time where Claudia Scheinbaum has won the election here, but she's of Jewish descent. So there's a lot of people who are not happy with that, not because she's Jewish, but because she's not considered Mexican.
Yeah.
Right? It's almost like we have a stranger in our country who's now running our country, who's going to run it in the best interest of her actual homeland.
Yeah, so that's always problematic in a place like Mexico, you can have
where it's a
influence,
homogenous group of people.
but you can have influence like him who can get the
That's a
stuff
great. It
going.
leaves room for him to really slide into that space where the people want that cultural influence, and that's why I brought that up.
And he's been he's spoken to Max Kaiser a lot of times, and he kind of understands the value of Bitcoin now.
Yeah.
Over time.
I don't think he does enough promoting of it. I know he's got like 1,000 businesses and stuff
Yeah,
that he
yeah,
has
he
to
got to
focus
run.
on, but he's not like a Michael Saylor or a President Bukele, right? Where that's his passion.
But he can get there. He might get there.
He might, but I'm saying now, of all of the times, he can kind of almost to me get like a surrogacy presidency.
Mhm.
Right? Because the people, she won by a landslide, so I don't really understand the disconnect. But again, the fact still stands that she's not really Mexican, and that's what their issue is. So this is great room for him to kind of get that type of influence going. So it says this has prompted a series of measures from the Nigerian government to try stabilizing the currency, cracking down on crypto operators, to force them to withdraw it from their platforms, and accusing them of currency manipulation. These measures haven't stabilized the currency's value, which remains in constant decline. Salinas Pliego was further asked which exchange traded funds, ETFs, stocks, and cryptocurrencies he would recommend as an investment option. And of course, his answer was Bitcoin, showing his faith and trust in the investment aspect of the cryptocurrency. Salinas Pliego, famous for his anti state stance, has favored Bitcoin and Bitcoin linked policies in Mexico. In 2021, he declared his allegiance to Bitcoin, stating that it had extraordinary properties and describing it as gold for the modern world. At that time, he explained he was working for Banco Azteca, which is his bank, to be the first institution to accept Bitcoin in Mexico. Also in 2022, he reported that the Electra Group, a chain of department stores owned by Salinas, might start selling Bitcoin as merchandise. Now, we have an Electra right down the street.
Well, they have Electra right next to a Banco Azteca.
But they're always together, just so you know that.
Okay. Well,
yeah, they're always, because that is the finance company.
The finance part of it. So, yeah. So they may start selling as merchandise. There was a story I had, Costco running out of gold.
Once they put it on the shelf, yeah.
So that they're selling
precious metals.
Precious metals as merchandise.
Yeah.
And so you sell Bitcoin as merchandise. So that's a smart move. And you got to get that all. I mean, that's a lot
worked out. Yeah,
that's a lot of moving parts.
But once they get it up live and running, we'll absolutely do a live right there so that you guys can see the process here in Mexico, how they're advertising it, the education that goes with it. And we'll keep checking at Electra to see, where the progress is. That's it for that.
So that's very interesting. A very influential man has a lot to say about Bitcoin and his country, and that's very good. Maybe a friend of the show, Lori Bitcoin, working on that.
I would like to
working on seeing getting the interview.
I'm gonna send her a DM and see what she has to say. Hyben17, thank you so much for joining. So Hyben said, I just realized I can watch you guys on Twitter. Yes, you can watch us on Twitter, on Facebook, and on YouTube. I'm trying to figure out the Instagram live situation.
Me too.
IG is a little bit kind of like raunchy, so I didn't want a whole bunch of distractions while we're doing the show. Says, I'm just saying that those who built their big purses is those who don't want to go off the fiat dollar and don't want to take that risk. Oh, I got you, Les Square. I know what your comment means now. So the old money is in the dollar. He's talking about old money like Great Gatsby old money, right? All of the people that were who have a significant amount of investment in the dollar, who use the dollar, that's where their purse is. They need to keep the dollar propped up because they're not in Bitcoin, right? So we're talking like your politicians and some of those people, your Berkshire Hathaway people.
Yeah.
Those people, yeah. So I get what you're saying now. Yep, you're absolutely right.
They didn't want to let it die.
T. Will Line says, if that ain't proof government wants people to stay poor, the currency is dying. And you say you have to get rid of your Bitcoin. Nigeria is just like the rest of them. Yeah, but the idea that the Naira is worth less than the Satoshi, I mean, that is abject poverty conditions.
They had to run in there and get rid of all the scammers in Nigeria. Who would think there would be scammers in Nigeria?
Oh, boy.
I'm just saying, but
I think everyone in America has received an email from a
I don't
prince
know, man.
who
A
wants to
DM
gift
from
them $1 million.
who wants to marry them or something.
Yeah, or a message she wants to marry you. My husband
man.
cursing people out on my social
Come
media,
on,
y'all.
come on.
So you ain't gonna slide into my DMs because you're gonna get an angry Simon mentioning what he got to say to you. But cousins, I'm also curious about what y'all think with now. Simon always talks about game theory, right?
Yeah.
So while it's not coming through the vein of a president, I am curious on Claudia Scheinbaum's stance on Bitcoin. That's a story for another day. Here we have a prominent billionaire who may have more influence than the president when you kind of sort of think about it, right?
Yeah.
Now, really trying to kind of push the people to get involved with Bitcoin. Having Electra and Banco Azteca, and if you're selling Bitcoin as merchandise, there has to be a significant amount of education to go along with it for the people to understand the value in it in order to purchase it.
Right.
Right? Especially with the obstacles in a country like this one where technology is it's a huge obstacle here,
yeah,
y'all.
So it would take on in the bigger cities first, obviously Mexico City,
yeah.
and stuff like that, Guadalajara, but
Monterrey,
yeah, it might spread
Cancun,
out,
Cozumel, Puerto Vallarta,
yeah, especially in places like that.
Oaxaca, Tulum.
I haven't been to all those places, so I don't know how prominent those Banco Aztecas are.
But they're in places that have tourism.
Mm-hmm.
So that means there's a lot of US dollar conversion flowing through there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They probably have higher socioeconomic individuals densely populated in these areas. So it would be easier to kind of roll those out there. And of course, they're going to do their market research.
Yeah, of course.
Right? But I'm still curious as to, doesn't matter how affluent these people are. If somebody looks at you and says, what the hell is Bitcoin really? Right? Yeah. You want me to buy it? I can afford to buy it. I could afford to buy, hundreds of Satoshis because I work for Deloitte, because I work for da-da-da-da-da, right?
Yeah.
Where's the education? How is he going to roll that out? That's significant. Are you partnered up with Allure Bitcoin? Right? There's a lot of questions that go around that article. He also is trying to push the market cap up just by attrition with the amount of Mexicans in Mexico. Just imagine if he could get some type of mass adoption going, how much that would propel forward the market cap for Bitcoin. That's not institution, but it's just by attrition.
And even buying the Bitcoin, if figured out, it would help the remittance payments lower,
to come down.
Yeah,
right.
So that you can just send it wallet to wallet without these third parties interfering, Western Union.
But it also leaves room now for you financially disposable income wise to get more Bitcoin.
Right.
Right? What you're not spending here, you have to spend here. I think in some which way, shape, or form, it would also bolster the economy in a way because they would be able to take profits and buy more. So it's just good all the way around.
Yeah.
But it's the rollout of it, the onboarding process that I would be curious. I think I'm going to send Lori Bitcoin a DM because that would be good content information just to see how another nation's going to do it.
Okay. Yeah. Game theory.
Les Square said, will having regular Bitcoin versus an EFT Bitcoin be worth more and or give you more options? What do you think about that? So the Bitcoin on the exchange versus the
yeah, so I mean, we'll go straight from the bottom. Not your keys, not your cheese, as Bitcoin Zay would say. So
he means ETF though.
How do you want your Bitcoin if you don't want to actually own and hold it and have the seed phrase, then yes, ETFs are a good way to go because you get exposure to Bitcoin's movement,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't have all the responsibility of actually holding and owning the coin.
Right.
So it depends on how you want to run it because some people will really believe in Bitcoin, and then and then there's other people who is like, well, I just want to get on this train and make some money.
Yeah.
So ETFs are good for that. Grayscale, Bitcoin, companies that have Square. What's the other one? Michael Saylor's coin. It was like
Strategies.
strategy, micro strategies. So places like that give you good exposure. But if it's
I know what you
straight,
meant, cousin.
if you're going straight with the ETF, that's a good way to go. I would say that's a good way to go.
And then like for us, right? I have the access to get exposure to it via my 401k. So any which way we can get access to Bitcoin, we do all of it, right? That's the only way I can get it through my 401k. There's a significant amount of money parked in there. And Fidelity's like, hey, this is what we're gonna do, then sign me up, make sure I'm first in line for that type of exposure. Of course, Simon does Swan and Cash App and Sun Exchange. There's like two other exchanges you do Bitcoin on as well because we got the wallets to
the
go with it.
automated ones.
Yeah.
The automated ones, yeah.
So we live in a society where people are always making people choose stuff, and it's like sometimes you can do all of it, right? It's like Subway. You can get all of those little things on your sandwich if you want to. You can do the ETF and you can do traditional Bitcoin.
This is true, and so
you can have precious metal and Bitcoin.
Yeah, because there's a fight right there. It doesn't even need to be had.
You can do both.
But it's just certain people are so adamant about one thing or other that they have to fight against it. But man, do a little bit of both.
But let freedom ring, yes. So the real power is in self custody. Understood, right? Exactly. And we have all the different ways of self custody Simon can think of. But if we're going to do the 401k anyway, and that's the only way I can get that capital, right, exposed to big, then I'm going to do that as well, is my point, right? If they're saying you can do the blended investments, you can choose your own investments or whatever, yes. And we now are giving you access to exposure to Bitcoin, then yeah, I'm going to do that as well. And that was really the point I was making, let freedom ring.
Yeah, and
I'm going to do all of it.
And are we going to talk about 401k?
I was talking about my 401k with Fidelity.
Okay. Yeah, and because a lot of that became because of the hedge fund managers, right? They had high profile clients. Yeah. Asking over and over and over, how can I get
the demand
for access to Bitcoin? They're like, well, and they'll push you off as long as they can. Yeah. They'll say, yeah, we're looking into it, and then
now they have to join. We can't beat you. We got to join.
Yeah, BlackRock started it off. ARK Investments, these places.
So that's why I was saying if I'm doing the 401k anyway, and they're gonna give me the ETF access, then let's do it.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. And it's gonna perform better than colleague A, who's just in the blended investment. I have no idea if people know how to put their own investment together, but it is an option with Fidelity. Yeah. So I would imagine, if I had to guess that, me getting the exposure is going to outperform colleague A and colleague B's.
Oh, far out.
Far out before them.
And that's a shame because it's just a simple thing. Like, hey, just check out this Bitcoin. People have been talking about it forever. You go home, you go on what is it? CNBC.
To do what, baby?
Just watch TV, watch they talk about the stock market all day long. You're looking at it, see the news, and you hear about Bitcoin. You've been hearing about Bitcoin for a long time, right? Why not actually
try to find a way to expose yourself to it?
And find out and get some information about it.
Les Square's asking about Palladium over NVIDIA. Are you familiar with NVIDIA?
Well,
he said precious metal that is. I know it's a coin versus stock. Okay, that's why I'm not familiar with Nvidia. Or knowing that Nvidia is going to split. I'm not
Hold on,
familiar
well, let
with
me
that
see.
stock.
Damn, they moved so quick. That's what that is. What are you talking about?
Nvidia, it's a stock. And I'm not familiar with that stock, so I couldn't speak on it, cousin.
So Nvidia is gonna split. Well, would you do Palladium over Nvidia? I know it's coin versus stock. Both knowing. Well, less who's this? Less squat.
Last square.
Last square. Okay,
Last
that's pretty
square.
clear.
Lay square.
Less square. Okay. This isn't financial advice, but right, isn't that what we say?
Yeah, we're not financial advisors. This isn't financial advice.
So the first thing I would ask is this a short term or a long term play?
Yeah,
Because
you need
that
a
may
lot more
yeah
information
that
than
makes
just
it
that question.
a big difference if it's a short term or long term play. But on a long term play, you definitely want to go with Palladium over Nvidia. But if you know something about the stock split and if that's going to affect the price positively or negatively, and you can get out of there with some money in the short term, if that's your vision, then maybe you take the stock play if you're going to make money. But it depends on what
There's a lot of other
yeah.
variables more than the question that you asked
Yeah, but
before
I
you can
understand
make
what
that
you're saying.
decision.
I would always go with the palladium, the silver, not silver, the actual precious metal.
So, Cousin T said everyone should self custody. We agree. I was just saying if you have access to it, your employer, and you're doing your 401k anyway,
Can't sell custody there.
go on and make sure that your investment portfolio is the one that's exposed to the ETF. That's all I was saying. He's willing to bet his last dollar. They're already manipulating the market. How long will OTC liquid? No metric to know. Les Square said short, so short term. Left Freedom Ring said Nvidia has really been pumping lately.
So now in the short term, you might go with Nvidia.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched it. I haven't looked at it at
That's not my
all.
wheelhouse.
I'm just hearing what you're saying. But if a short term play and you see a chance to take some profits, and that's what you do,
Mm-hmm.
then go ahead and get your profits by all means.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Don't sit down on a long term play and just like they say, be left holding the bag. If you
Right.
see some profits, go ahead and get them. If it's short term movement, uh, would be my advice. But I'm not a financial advisor. But yeah, get up out of there with your profits. Always take profits when you can, because if you sit around too long, profits will go away.
Yeah, they do.
They will go away. So yeah, get them profits though. And I don't know about a split, because sometimes a split can hurt your profits. Sometimes it can help. So I don't know in what regard why it's splitting and stuff like that. But yeah, so always be
Like, do
very
your due
informed.
diligence because he
Yeah,
doesn't
very be
have
informed.
all of the
Yeah, be very
information
informed on that. But
to
I
make a
kind
definitive
of see
decision.
where it's going, but I'm not sure all the little moving parts. But I kind of have an idea where it's going.
Left Freedom Ring said, Aaron, that makes sense. Right. So, like, when the news came out that day that Fidelity was going to give employees exposure to Bitcoin, it hasn't
Sorry.
rolled out yet. With their investments, first thing Simon and I did, we went on my dashboard and we increased the percentage that, and I was already, like
Yeah.
stuffing that wallet to the core, right? And we went ahead and we increased the percentage again. That way, when they finally did roll it out, we can get like maximum exposure on that end with our investments
Yeah.
regarding the Bitcoin exposure.
Funny thing is when you get into investing and they say diversify your portfolio,
Yeah.
it's like diversification inside of diversification inside of diversification. Like, say you got a portfolio of Bitcoin, then you diversify inside of that, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do you want your Bitcoin? Do you want to sell custody? Do you want some over here in the ETF? Do you want some over here in like a savings, what I call a savings, but you use Cash App, something like that? Same thing with silver. Do
And
you
then
want?
Sun Exchange, right? When we're talking about the Bitcoin, that's our long-term part
Oh,
of the
yes, it's long
portfolio
term. Yeah. So,
and our children's inheritance aspect of our portfolio.
so yeah, you got diversification inside of diversification
Vacation
inside
inside
of
of
diversity.
diversification.
It gets real complicated after a while as you try to build these things up, especially if you don't have anyone helping you, a help meet, if you will, if you guys are familiar with that.
Mm-hmm.
Even trying to pass it on to your children, the information. This is where it's at. This is where the keys are. This is,
Mm-hmm.
go here.
That's how you access it.
Yeah, this is the safe. You got, it's kind of like James Bond shit. Excuse my language. And let them know where you go get stuff.
T. Will Line said 10-1 split. It's the second largest company in the world. AI is why it's taking off. As long as that narrative is hot, the number goes up.
Hey,
You
well,
don't want to do stocks anymore, do you?
no, because I don't. I
You
mean,
gonna look into it?
no, because I'm done with
You
stocks.
done
I
with
spent too
stocks.
many years over there in stocks.
Stressed you out, gave you
Yeah,
gray hair prematurely.
yeah, I don't care. But in the video, so 10-1 split. Hey, if there's money on the table, and sometimes you gotta take some chips off the table,
Yeah.
as they say. Take some chips off the table if you see an opportunity. Don't sit around too long.
Let freedom ring. What do you think about companies that put Bitcoin on their balance sheet? I know how you feel about it.
Yeah, I have no. I actually applaud them
Mm-hmm.
for doing the right thing because let's keep it simple. If you leave, obviously, there's only a few things you can have on your balance sheet,
Right.
and most times, what people have on their balance sheet is cash.
Yeah.
So it's the cash reserves, as they call it, but it's what's on their balance sheet. And like we just said earlier, Bitcoin's up 61% over 6 months. So if you had that same amount of money on your balance sheet in cash, that's how much percentage you lost if you would have had it in Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm. That's correct.
And so, yes, I am a champion of having Bitcoin on your reserve
I think too, for your
treasury.
stockholders and shareholders and all
Mm.
of the people you have obligations to, right? It's fiduciary responsibility in a sense. You're being really responsible by doing that, I think.
Yeah, you are, and make sure you check out Michael Saylor because see how he did it. He gave his shareholders
Mm-hmm.
notice
Yeah.
that this is what I'm about to do,
And if you don't like it, kick rocks.
and the people who didn't like it left.
They did.
And so
And it was a lot of them too, wasn't it? A significant amount.
Yeah, so it was a situation where it wasn't like he sprung this on them and they're like, "Hey, what are you talking about?" He gave them the option. Said, "Hey, this is what I'm going to do. If you don't like it, I'm giving you, your fair time to leave." And they left, and those who stayed really made out because I believe Michael Saylor. Y'all have to fact check me on this, but he got in right around 9,000. He bought as it went up, but he's in the profit. He's in the profit. He got this going way before President Bukele got going, and he's way in the profit. He didn't only put it on his balance sheet; he made a legal tender for his whole company. I mean, his whole country, I should say. And so,
But idealistically, right, he is the CEO of a corporation, which are the citizens of
yes,
El Salvador.
yes,
So
he cleaned it up. He'll tell you how he did it if you ask him.
absolutely. All right, we just have a few more articles, you guys. Just keeping you
Oh
guys
boy, keeping them.
and with your ear to the streets. Y'all supposed to be watching the street. Don't companies have to sell? Saylor has majority shares though, so he controls the company. Yeah, right. Like if he didn't, he would have to go through the board and get permission and
Yeah,
yada yada yada, blah 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 blah
he was
blah,
in the
which
right.
usually doesn't fly.
He was definitely in the right
Position
position
to
to
do
make
it.
that move.
Yeah.
A lot of people aren't. You see, if you guys remember, I guess it's been 2 years. Has it been 2 years? I don't know if it's been that long, but whatever. Jack Dorsey was on. Everybody thought he owned Twitter. It seemed, thought he owned Twitter, but when you got down to it, he did not own it. He did not have a majority say. And he was trying to do a lot more things with Bitcoin and Twitter. he was looking into these things called micropayments and things like that,
Yeah.
where you could just pay somebody 100 satoshis because I liked your video, or
Yeah,
I
yeah,
liked your
yeah.
comment. He was looking into stuff like that.
For ways for content creators
Yeah,
to be more, like a more better entrepreneurial
yeah, because he was saying,
benefit.
I think he was saying the bigger banks won't do anything under $1.
Yeah.
So if I wanted to just send you 100 satoshis, which is far under $1,
Mm-hmm.
I could just send you 100 satoshis
Yeah.
and so on and so forth. But anyway, he didn't have to say at Twitter that everybody thought he did. So you
Mm-hmm.
see, he stepped down and he put his focus on Square,
Yeah.
where he does have to say.
Yeah.
So that's what that was. Yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah, Jack Dorsey just didn't have the say, and he didn't have the people on his side to get him to do what he wanted to do. So he just let him, he let it go to Elon Musk, and they changed it and got rid of 80% of the workforce, which is crazy. You're saying there was 80% of people working there that didn't do anything.
Right.
So anyway, yeah, you got to have that.
That's within
Yeah,
his organization.
yeah, definitely.
So, cousins, we're going to move on to two new articles, and we want to kind of give you guys a disclaimer. I know that many of you and the viewers on this network,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's Bitcoin centric, it's crypto centric, it's altcoins, it's all sorts of things, but just understanding that some of the news that we bring to you, it's also important to understand economics, macroeconomics, and microeconomics, right? So our show is a bit more comprehensive monetarily, right? We talk about monetary policy, we talk about the shifting in monetary policies, we talk about how these things globally affect us. So we often do content that seems like, well, what does this have to do with Bitcoin? But it has everything to do with your economy. It has everything to do with economics, macroeconomics, microeconomics, to some which way, shape, form, or degree, right? It's the whole portfolio. So this next news article is about population decline. Hi, John Mitchell. Thank you so much for joining, Cousin
Oh, hey,
John.
cousin
That's a new
John.
name too.
John Mitchell.
So I just wanted to give you that disclaimer so that we can just kind of wrap it around. You need to understand how these things affect your economy, how they affect you, and they often add value to what you're doing in stacking your sats, in stacking your ounces, and any other thing you may be investing in. So this is the decline birth rates. It's charted declining birth rates in the most populous countries from 1950 to today. And it's hard to see it the way the map is exaggerated. There's Nigeria, Pakistan. But we're going to go into the article really quick because we're starting to run out of time, babe.
Okay, all right.
Birth rates are falling in the six most populated countries in the world at different speeds. So the graphic shows the annual births per thousand people in the world's six largest countries by population. The data is from the UN World Population Prospects from 2022 and being compiled by Our World in Data. The global decline in fertility rates. Fertility rates are declining in most places. So, according to the UN, in 1990, the average number of births per woman globally was 3.2. By 2019, this had fallen to 2.5 births per woman. By 2050, it's expected to decline further to 2.2 births. Notably, a fertility level of 2.1 per woman is necessary to avoid a national population decline over the long run. This is not including net immigration. China's birth rate has fallen the fastest in recent years among the countries highlighted here. The country registered 7.6 annual births per thousand people in 2021 compared to 24.4 in 1990 and 41 in 1950. So we're down to just 7.6 annual births per thousand people versus 41 annual births per thousand people in 1950.
And that's very incredible.
Don't skip over the chart. So here we go. So in 1950, we're just going to run. We're not going to do the ones in the middle. But 1950 was 41 births per thousand people. India had 43.8 births per thousand people. Indonesia had 40.6 births per thousand people. Nigeria had 45.6 births per thousand people. Pakistan 43.7. The United States is half of all of those countries, right? And this was in 1950.
22.8.
We go now to 2021, and China 7.6, India 16.4, Indonesia again 16.4, Nigeria is still hanging out in 37, but see the decline over 25. You can see, I'm sorry, 0.5. You can see the decline over the years. The United States is just 11.1 births in every 1,000 people.
Check that. Go down to that one of the United States. It'll. It's just a part of the article. If you go down, it'll give you a good.
No, baby, that's it.
That's it.
Yeah, maybe it looked different on the phone because it was mobile. This trend suggests that China could face challenges similar to those faced by Japan, which has a vast senior population and significant economic and social implications. And we're going to get into that more in just a moment. The United States registered 11.1 annual births per thousand people in 2021 compared to the 16.7 in 1990 and the 22.8 in 1950. It's worth noting, however, that the U.S. also adds people to its population through immigration. So for those of you who are seeing the immigration issue, we're also now seeing what it is they're trying to do behind the scenes.
Yeah.
Each year, unlike other countries in the above data set, Nigeria, with the highest birth rate on our list, registered 37.1, but again, we did see the decline over the years compared to 45.6 in 1950.
So they got a very high birth rate and they have a terrible, terrible currency.
Boy,
so
that is going to be a recipe for disaster.
That's what Nigeria has coming for them.
All right, Aaron, good information. Tell us what it has to do with the price of tea in China. Here we go. So, falling fertility rates pose major challenges for the global economy, and this is important. It says falling fertility rates are set to spark a transformational demographic shift over the next 25 years with major implications for the global economy. By 2050, three-quarters of the country are forecast to fall below the population replacement birth rate of 2.1 babies per female. By 2100, just 6 countries out of 200, all right, just so you guys have an idea, 200 plus, are expected to have population replacing birth rates. Falling fertility rates are set to, we just said that. That will leave 49 countries, primarily in low-income regions of the sub-Saharan Africa and Asia, responsible for the majority of new births. Notice who's responsible for the majority of new births: the melanated people. Future trends in fertility rates and live births will propagate shifts in global population dynamics, driving changes to international relations and a geopolitical environment, highlighting new challenges in migration and global aid networks. By 2100, again, 6 countries are expected to have population replacing birth rates: the African nations of Chad, Niger, Tonga, Pacific Islands of Samoa and Tonga, and Central Asia's Tajikistan. That shifting demographic landscape will have profound social, economic, environmental, and geopolitical impacts. In particular, shrinking workforces in advanced economies will require significant political and fiscal intervention. Even as advances in technology provide some support, there are certain things that cannot replace human intervention. As the workforce declines, the total size of the economy will tend to decline, even if output per worker stays the same. In absence of liberal migration policies, the nations will face many challenges. Artificial intelligence and robotics may diminish the economic impact of declining workforces, but some sectors, such as housing, would continue to be strongly affected. The report, which was funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, how interesting, because they are all for population decline, right? Did not put a figure on the specific impact of the demographic shifts. However, it did highlight a diverse income countries where birth rates are steadily falling and low income countries where they're rising. And that's what Simon just mentioned a moment ago.
Oh, yeah.
So, a country whose currency is the worst performing currency in a market of currencies, their birth rate is continuing to rise. And then in more advanced, who have stronger currencies and more economic resources, their population is beginning to wane. So from 1950 to 2021, we looked at that already. I don't have to go back over that again. But this comes even as the global population is forecast to grow from 8 billion to 9.7 billion by 2050 before peaking at around 10.4 billion in the mid 2080s. This is according to the UN, right? So they're forecasting. Many advanced economies have fertility rates well below replacement rate. By the middle of the century, that category is set to include major economies like China, India, with South Korea's birth rate ranking as the lowest globally as less than 1. Meantime, lower income countries are expected to see their share of new births almost double from 18% to 35% by 2100. So at the turn of the century, sub-Saharan Africa will account for half of all new births. It's going to be a very black world. Murray said that this could put poorer countries in a stronger position to negotiate more ethical and fair migration policies. Leverage that could become important as countries grow increasingly exposed to the effects of climate change. But we also bring that up because there is a lot of speculation that AI is going to be like the savior of
That's what
the
they
world.
say. Yeah, that's what they
And
say.
we do have to understand that there's certain aspects that AI just simply cannot replicate and cannot replace.
This is true, and that was a very telling article that it's people who have 100-year plans have to really look into, because you notice on multiple occasions it said the year 2100, right? And to us that sounds like 2100, man, that's so far off. But you have to think in those terms, because below replacement, generation over generation, and they consider generations in this 20 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
About 20 years until you become grown and maybe have another child.
Mm-hmm.
That's a generation. So generation over generation up to 2100, you could see these numbers, and they look incredible, because what she's saying is most countries in the world will be below replacement except these sub-Saharan African countries.
Black countries.
So now you're going to have the Africans repopulating the earth and getting some kind of
leverage
and some balance
Yeah.
back to how it should be.
Mm-hmm.
How it should be.
So, T. Willine, you pose a great question. Why do you keep telling our women you don't need a man? And so the darker hues don't pass them up in population. They open the border up to lighter hues to populate America, right? Because that's how they count their citizens. Gates and Melinda, Bill Gates and Melinda Gates, also they're depopulation advocates.
Yes, they are.
But the idea is that, and they've said it on many occasions, I can't remember his name. I think his name is Yuri something.
Mm-hmm.
He's Israeli, and he's wildly anti-God. He basically said depopulation is important to get rid of useless eaters.
Okay.
The 1% know that they're losing footing. And anything they can do to keep that number from widening, right? From now, it's 1%, it's going to be 3%, 5%. They're not having none of that. So the depopulation is a big deal when it comes to poor people, when it comes to what they consider, like they say, useless eaters, utilizing up the resources and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. So that's really what the push is for, Cousin T. Willine, when they tell women, you don't need a man, you don't need children, focus on you, girl, focus on your career. I don't think that the living God, right? God Almighty put you on the planet so that you can focus on marketing. I don't think that, right? And if you sat down and you thought about it, you realize that that biological clock that ticks inside of you, he put that there because he doesn't think that you focusing on your career is a priority.
Yeah.
That's why women have biological clocks. They do tick, and they do spark that regret in a lot of women. Now, that's a whole nother show for a whole nother day, but that narrative isn't going to legacy families, right? Legacy families put those families together. Your daughter's gonna marry my son, and da 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 da. And we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that because they want to maintain that 1%. Whereas, and when I say this, I'm not trying to offend anyone. I'm just making a statement. Whereas the people that they consider worth depopulating don't seem to be able to choose their baby daddies, right?
Right.
So that is where that rhetoric is going. And we're tying all of that in so that you can understand how important Bitcoin is to families and it is to legacy, right? Because we're going to live in a world where there's going to be huge depopulation, there's going to be a ton of money supply, and you're going to have to utilize a commodity or asset in order to trade for the things that you need.
Need and want, yes.
And when that happens, those children who grow up to be adults won't have the ease of access of gaining that asset. So it's kind of like if your grandparents knew that you were going to live in a world where you needed this particular thing, if they started hoarding it then so that it got to you in the second, third, fourth generation, then that is the legacy that they left, and they made sure that they had you in mind even though you didn't exist yet.
Yes.
Right. So I think it's important that we stay on top of the population decline narrative. We're not even going to go into how that's going to affect society, right? Yes, maybe they can have robotic firefighters. Maybe they can have robotic police. Maybe you can have, robotic restaurant waiters and waitresses and chefs and so on and so forth. But I still think that there are areas of society that can't be replaced by artificial intelligence. It needs that human intervention,
Yeah.
right? And if they're doing all of those jobs, how are those people making a living? What are they getting paid to do? What jobs are available to them? It's a whole new conundrum that we do need to consider if we have children and grandchildren.
Yeah, because you're gonna really what you're talking about. If you're rolling in all the AI, then you're gonna have to roll in probably UBI.
And if there's a universal base income, what are the metrics for you to be eligible for it? What does that quality of life look like? There's a lot of factors involved, and unfortunately, those factors involve our progeny. They involve our grandchildren and our great grandchildren. So the idea now is to do our best in order to conscientiously raise those children, conscientiously parent those grandchildren, in order to get them to do the same and conscientiously raising their children and their grandchildren and really pushing that collective consciousness, right? As nation builders, this is a very serious job. And I don't think that we as women take it as serious. I can name literally on just a few fingers women that I know who are absolutely and utterly serious about this nation building into fourth, fifth generations and don't even have grandchildren yet.
Yeah. And that's very important. And so I was watching our good brother Tariq Nasheed. I think it was this morning, and he was just giving out his soliloquy, if you will. And he said something that he always says before, but that it makes sense. He said, if I could just get my 300, he said he calls them his FBA 300, but his 300. But he's basically saying it's 300 people who can follow and actually do this, that you can get a lot of work done with just 300 people. And that's coming from the movie 300. And he's right. You don't need. It doesn't have to be a big gigantic movement, a global movement. If you got 300 people down, solid, ready to do what needs to be done, you can get a lot done. And that's all we are asking to do. Is 300 is a lot now, but we're building to that, right?
Mhm.
People who are really boots to the ground,
Education.
yeah, and so
Changing the narrative in our communities.
yeah, and willing to fight for what our communities deserve.
And willing to commit to the discipline and sacrifice that goes into what will be significant beneficial outcomes. I think that that's our biggest hurdle, is that people aren't willing to be inconvenienced.
And people aren't willing to put in the work
But that's
now.
the inconvenience part.
The work now and not be able to see what happens
That's
on
a
the
huge
back end,
inconvenience
right?
to them.
If I say, hey, I know I'm gonna put this work in now, and I'm gonna die, and I'll never see it come to fruition.
But it's for my children.
And I think it can come to fruition. Then, people are selfish in that way, where you just like, hey, man, I'll lay it down as long as you guys carry the torch and keep it moving.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's how I feel about my progeny. That they'll do that. So I have no problem with laying it down, putting everything out there.
And you talk about 300. Look how much stuff we get done with 6 people. I mean, even Tino is a significant help in this. We call it the Simon Corporation, right? Because we run it like a business. Even the kids refer to it like that.
Yeah.
But even Santino is a huge help, right? Once we train them to do certain things and stuff like that, and that's just 6 people.
Yeah. And so that's 6 people, and that's so 300 is. And if you can get more than that, man, the more the merrier.
But that's also why they break the groups up. When they see too many Black people coming together collaboratively, they go out of their way to break it apart, to knock it down, to shadow ban, to send an agent in. They want to create a scandal so that the trust is lost. Because of that, they understand that. I'm thinking, he says 300. If you got 150 Black people, half of that.
We're getting there. If we get there, we'll be like,
right,
right,
you would get a lot done. We do the show basically like 6 hours a week. Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Sometimes we do it on Saturday, whatever.
Yeah, 6 hours just actually doing the show.
Volunteer work, right?
A whole bunch of other hours researching, reading.
We spend a lot of time bringing you the information, understanding it, so that we could explain it and tell you how the other variables affect you and stuff.
Yeah.
And we
we
typically don't break past the 60 mark in the live. Our numbers have significantly gone down from like 600 views to just about 300 views. And Simon and I sit and we think like, what are we doing wrong? What content are we not giving? What is the type of content we should be giving in order to help expand that viewership? And again, right, this isn't for profit because we don't get paid. This isn't on our channel. We only get like 30 views on Simon Family Investment Ventures when the episode is. So, we think about these things, like the things that matter sometimes doesn't grow like the things that don't matter.
This is true.
Tasha K can get, I think Tasha K once had like 26,000 people on a live. I just scrolled past, so when I saw the number on the low, I was like, wow, 26,000 people on her live. She gets millions and millions of views in it, and it's in gossip. And I'm not asking for a fraction of those views, but we want to know how can we enlarge the conversation in our community?
Mm-hmm.
What does it take for people to get involved, to understand what's going on economically, what's going on financially, what's going on socioeconomically that directly affects them and how they can mitigate some of it.
Yeah, it's word by let's see word of mouth right now. We don't really have any other ways. We're not trying to promote it or do anything like that, but we really love you guys and we love
Violet
putting the
Freedom Ring.
fight.
Hmm.
Let freedom ring lead me.
He's leaving it,
Sorry,
yeah.
let freedom ring. Much respect, much respect.
Cousin John said it's the world we live in. Cousin T said it's not us. It's just the people are less disciplined. We've dumbed ourselves down as a people. No, we don't take it personal. I'm not taking it personal. But as a scientist, I am observing the field and I'm trying to figure out, right? This is finance, this is economics. So you can't use sex to market it, right? So that doesn't work. We don't gossip. There's nothing to gossip about unless it's just what happened today. Right? Um, but how we can enlarge this conversation to where people take an interest. And again, like I said, we're doing it for free. So it's not even like, oh, we need more views and likes in order to increase the money that we make and watch time and yada, yada, yada. Like, no, we're willing to do it for free. But we are at a loss right now to figure out how we can enlarge this conversation community wide.
Yeah, community wide. We have stuff that we can do, kind of boots on the ground here in Mexico, and with the people we
And
meet.
even that don't translate. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. I'm not willing to put the effort into a group of people who don't regard us when it comes to those things.
That's
Right? There's no black brown coalition, so I'm not gonna put my time, my energy, and my intelligence towards it.
hmm
Right? You guys have your own allies. You make it very clear that we are not your allies when it comes to working together to do stuff. So I put my energy in my own community, but then our dilemma is that they're not interested either.
right.
Right? So, these are some of the things that Simon and I, they keep us awake at night. We're trying to do this philanthropic work. We're trying to give our time. We're trying to give our expertise. We're trying to give our trying to give back, right? In the world where we are extremely blessed, we want to give back, but we don't know or understand how to enlarge the conversation. We also understand that some of our content cousins, they get a lot of people on their lives, they get a lot of views, and it's because they stick right to the technical, right? And that's what the people want. They don't care about life portfolio. They want to know, where's my 10 bagger at? Where, right? Where am I going to park my money next? And Simon and I understand and we realize that there are a group of people who need the comprehensive information in order to get up levelings that they're looking for.
Yeah, yes, indeed. And if they already have the up levelings, we need those high level people to come and help us, like push forward,
Mm-hmm.
push, push, push. It's just us, a couple other people, but yeah, it's just us for the most part, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
it's all right. We do what we can.
Cousin T says you're gonna have to sell the Negroes a dream about black togetherness and a white devil to get us together just long enough to steal the money we sent, right? We don't ask y'all for money, we don't sell anything. So I would think that it would have encouraged a larger group. We've lost some people. I don't even know. I wish I could ask them, like, is there a reason why you don't join us anymore? Is it the content? What is your preferences? I was telling Simon, a survey monkey, send out to the Cousins Anonymous, right? But send it out to you guys or just put the link here so you guys can fill it out and really tell us, what do you want to learn? What content do you feel is crucial in these discussions? I'm still going to put it together, but it may just be that what we have, that's our tribe, and that's that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all for if they told me, like, hey, Aaron, we graduated. We got a lot of information from you and Simon. And now we feel like we can move on to this,
Mm-hmm.
this, that, and the third. I'm all for that. Right? I love graduation. It's a celebration. And if you've outgrown us, that I'm happy with that. That makes me feel good. Because again, there's like no profit or anything. The profit is that you graduated and you're doing more complicated content and so on and so forth. But these are just some of the things we had on our mind because you talked about the 300 and we've talked about this night after night after
Yeah,
night.
300. You know,
What do we
just
do in
solid
order
300.
to enlarge this conversation? What content should we be, putting out there that'll go viral and really bring more cousins to the table? And we just,
It's hard. You know, one of the things you got to really touch on is relationships, though. Eventually, you got to touch on that
I
because
don't like touching on the
you
relationship
still
thing
like touching on that, but
because this isn't a society of, and I don't even call it tradition. To me, it's like I said, um, conscientious wifing and conscientious parenting. And
mm-hmm.
it requires a lot of commitment, discipline, and work. And, I'm just not going to jive with the majority on how I do things and see things and perceive things, especially because it is husband centric. Mugs don't want to hear that shit. Nobody wants to hear that I sit at your feet and learn all of these things so I can come on this show and sound like a subject matter expert.
Life is about people and life's about relationships.
So
So
I don't like the.
so that's something you have to delve into. But that not tonight. You know, we've been here long enough.
Mm-hmm.
A few articles we didn't get to. Maybe we'll catch them on the backside.
No, baby, we got a yellow one. Yeah, I'll save that for.
Yeah, for another day.
I'll save it for Friday.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure everybody was all right over here.
You're gonna have to learn meme coins and fast money to get the microwave crowd. Jesus only had 12. Get more than that in the chat. We do. Y'all do great. There's 42 people in the chat. I think that's the height of the room at the 1 hour and 56 minute mark. Yes, we strong, cousin T. We just wanted to see how can we help more people, but it'll eventually come over time. We're gonna keep putting the hours in, keep putting the work in. It's mastery, right? We have to master this aspect, which we haven't yet, even though it feel like we got 10,000 hours. It feel like it.
That's a lot of hours.
But cousins, we love y'all so much. We appreciate your support, the chatters, especially because you guys help us to understand. You give us insight. Your questions are fantastic. And I don't have a word that's stronger than we have full gratitude unto you for your support and helping us do the philanthropic work we promised the Most High we would do. I mean, this ain't church, but it is some type of healing, I'm hoping. And it's very therapeutic to all of you. There go to Colonel. Colonel, your brother's been looking for you.
Yeah, I thought you
thought you didn't love him anymore, even though you send us a ton of stuff on Messenger. But Colonel, we're about to hop off. We're at the 1 hour and 57 minute mark on the. So definitely watch the replay. We love y'all so much, and we will see you Friday, 7ish, probably 7:37ish. And we do have a bit more Bitcoin centric news for you. He's working on the store arms.
Oh, you got
That's
you.
why he been MIA.
Yeah.
He been AWOL for your Thor arms. I get it. But we'll see you guys Friday around 7:30ish. And Mamba out.